Hey there, I'm Lacey Owens and I'm happy to be here with you today. I started this YouTube channel to share some insight with you and just some helpful, practical, super easy tips that tend to work for me in all things in my life, whether it's business or running around with my family or my personal care, dealing with stress, managing mental health. All of those kinds of things are things that I want to share with you and just to answer questions that people have sent me or have asked me over the years. And so today, one of the things that people have asked me a fair bit is what books that I read. And I have to be completely honest with you, up until this past year, I really wasn't reading a whole lot. I was always playing the I'm too busy, I don't have time to read card. And I feel like we all kind of get in that trap at times. And I just want you to know that if you carve it into your schedule and really make it a real thing, there is opportunity to read. And I really encourage it because it has been tremendous for my growth and it's got me through some pretty tough times and got me on track when I needed it to. So, and of course, you can have a nice hot cup of coffee while you read too. Clear my throat. I'm so not used to this whole camera thing yet, so bear with me. So today I just want to share with you a few of the books that I've read and how I've managed to carve this time into my schedule is I the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I run through a 10-minute stretching routine to open my body up and get my blood moving and feeling good and feeling awake, and then I instantly go into 20 minutes of reading. I set a timer on my phone and I turn my phone on airplane mode, like I'm not distracted by anything, and I just read for 20 minutes. Another thing that I do with my family is I actually started this whole stop, drop, and read thing that every evening we'll sit down after supper for 20 minutes. I'll set the timer again on my phone and we all sit on the couch. So it's a family thing that we do together. And lots of times I'll ask the kids questions after we've done our reading and check in on them and make sure that they're actually reading, because if I'm being completely honest with you, they hate it. Like my kids they're not bookworms by any stretch of the imagination, and they complain every single time that they have to do it. And I make them do it anyway, because I feel like as parents, we have to make our kids do things that they maybe don't always want to do. So I'm going to jump right in and share with you the books that I've read in 2018 that I've enjoyed or that I've learned a few lessons from that have been helpful to me. I'm going to start with my first category of books that I've read is on time management, because I am an absolute productivity freak. I am constantly thinking about my time and being conscious of it and making it count and making it be intentional and useful. And so I read the whole Laura Vanderkam trio. I find her insight incredible. There's a lot of really cool stories in here. I love reading about really high performing people. So there was what the most successful people do before breakfast. I Know How She Does It, and 168 Hours. One thing I found is that they took a long time to read, and so I didn't love that, because I felt like for the amount that I learned and the amount of time I spent reading it, spending time on reading about time, I felt like it was a little bit long, but I still think that it was worthy information and I would recommend these books. Going on to more productivity. This is a book that I've actually read before 2018, but I kind of reference it a lot and go back and read things that I've highlighted in it. And I also watched Simon Sinek's TED Talk, Start With Why. A fair bit I watch it because I feel like it's got such a great message about always being intentional about what you do. Everything that I do, I have a reason for, and if I don't have a reason for it, I don't do it. So, and that's me in any sales role that I've ever played. I've actually left companies because I don't feel passionate enough about why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's a big one for me when I sit down with somebody and they're willing to put their trust in me, I have to make sure that I know why I'm doing what I'm doing and that it's a good plan for them. So Start with Why, Simon Sinek. Another book in the business line that I've read this year that I really enjoyed is the book Good to Great. A lot of great concepts in this book. One thing that I will say is that it's maybe a little bit dated now because some of the companies that it talks about have actually went bankrupt. So they went good to great to gone. And nevertheless, I still feel like there's a lot of amazing insight in here, and it helps me to visualize how I want my business to grow, how to get to the next level, what type of a leader I want to be in business and in life. And one thing I found super encouraging about it was that the best of the best were actually good, solid, humble people. And I thought that was incredible because lots of times I'm thinking, you know what, I'm not near enough of an asshole to be super successful in business. So I recommend this book. It might be a little bit dated, but I still feel like there's a lot of valuable lessons in there. Another one on performance that I've read, I just finished reading this, and I've also taken a couple of the modules of the online course, and I find this aligns a lot with what I do. It's called High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard, and I follow him on social media. I tune into his podcasts when I'm driving. I've taken some of his online training. I find him amazing at what he does in taking people to the next level. And once you reach that level, how to keep going past then. Because I feel like Tony Robbins always says this, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I feel like this is a great book for that, and I love that it aligns with a lot of the concepts that I'm working to teach people as well. A lot about seeking clarity, which I find super, super important in all things life, is having clarity of what you actually want to accomplish. So High Performance Habits, I highly recommend this one. I really loved it. A few more books that I've read over the last couple of years have been on grief. So if you don't know me already, my brother passed away in 2017 and he was only 42, and it was a huge shock, and to be honest with you, it completely threw me for a loop. I really, really struggled with it. I had never been through that type of grief before. I was really, really lost, and I really, really loved him, and I still do, and it was a really big challenge for me to go through that, and I don't feel like I have the lifestyle to sit around and let anything get me down. So I started reading books about grief and being able to relate with it and understand the stages of grief and everything that comes with it, and that it really doesn't go away, but you learn how to live with it. So I read this one called Transcending Loss, which is understanding the lifelong impact of grief and how to make it meaningful. And I really enjoy that because I feel like if you can be strong enough to take something that really tears you down and make it into something good to share with other people or to put meaning into your life, which I have been doing completely, I think that that's a great thing. So this is a great book. I recommend just any book on grief if you're going through that. This is another one that I read. It's called Surviving the Death of a Sibling, and this was, absolutely perfect for me because I read it pretty much with the stages that I was experiencing grief, and I was able to understand that I'm normal, to some people's standards, I guess. But I felt like I just connected so much to the author of this book, and I felt like everything that she said was so on par of exactly how I was feeling. And it was crazy that her brother was actually the same age as what my brother was, and I really loved it. And I just really recommend that if you're going through grief or any type of situation, to invest some time in reading, because it really does help. Another one This isn't primarily on grief. It's a true story about a man who had a near-death experience, or in his words, he died and came back again. And the whole entire book is super fascinating. Like, he was climbing a mountain, got stuck out there, got hypothermia. He went through all of the stages of hypothermia and the training process and everything involved in that side, which I found really interesting as well. And then through what the other side looked like to him and what he experienced, like going through the tunnel to the other side. I found it very, very encouraging. And whether you believe it or not, or what you believe in, I mean, I'm not here to tell you what to believe, but this really helped me to see that my brother's at peace and that he's in a beautiful place. And I do truly believe that. And I've honestly struggled for the last year and a half with where my religious values are anymore and different things like that. And I think that we go through those waves in our lives, but little things like this really help you along that journey. So Heaven is Beautiful, great book. All of it was interesting to me. A few books that I read for entertainment purposes. It's a long story, My Life by Willie Nelson, which looks like a super thick book, but I actually read it in a pretty decent time because I was so fascinated by it. I really like Willie Nelson. He's one of my dad's favorites. My dad listens to Willie's Roadhouse all the time. I grew up listening to lots of his music, and I wouldn't say that it's probably what I tune into the most, but I definitely have a big appreciation for it and an appreciation for Willie Nelson. I think that his story is really beautiful. I love reading about people that had nothing and came from nothing and had every struggle handed to them imaginable, and somehow or another they just kept believing on themselves and kept pushing through it. And this is an awesome story for that. So I highly recommend this. I bought this in Nashville, and I think that my husband thought I was drunk when I bought it or something, and I wasn't that day, I guarantee it, but it's an awesome book. Really loved it. Another one that I read is my girl Amy Schumer. If you like to have a good laugh, she is awesome. A little secret, I love dirty humor. Like, I like crude, bad words, and she delivers all of that with a meaning, which is perfect. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'll probably read it again. And a book that I'm actually rereading again. I read it just recently. I got into it as part of a book club through the church, and I haven't actually been able to attend the book club, but I started reading this and I couldn't put it down. So I read the whole book, and I think we're supposed to be on chapter 6 right now, but I'm going to actually reread it because it was so good. I was traveling, and like, I would read it until I absolutely had to get on the plane, and then I would get my seatbelt on and just pull it out and get reading again right until I had to get off the plane. You know, like the plane lands and everybody gets up and they're pushing and shoving and everybody's being rude. No, I sat here with my nose in this book until it was like the row before me was leaving and I had to scoot out. I couldn't put it down. It was a great book. I feel like no matter what denomination you are or what your religion even is, it is fabulous and gives such a neat perspective on life and everything. I absolutely love it. I can't say enough about this one. And what I'm reading next, so I go from a religious book into a book that has a swear word in it, but I don't know. I don't think that's a bad. This is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up. And I'm super excited to read this book. I've kind of watched a few YouTube videos on it. I've read a lot of reviews on it. I've read little parts and pieces of it. And I feel like it aligns a lot with some of the things that I say about being intentional and knowing where to give your, and being able to distinguish, like, this is not worth my F's. So I'm going to move on to this because this is worth my Fs. So there you have it. Those are my books from 2018. I'm sorry if I took too much of your time with that, but I recommend every single one of those books, and I recommend that you take time to read and grow and learn, because personally, I feel like it has pushed me to a new level, and I hope in 2019 I read double the amount of books. So thanks. Have a great day. Cheers.